Bienvenidas to Latina Literati. If you enjoy interesting ideas, wonderful books, and great people from the past and the present, then this is the channel for you. I recently had the opportunity to see the musical, Tony Award-winning musical, Moulin Rouge, Molino Rojo, The Red Windmill. I'm going to dedicate today's video to the cousin that organized it. Prima, te agradezco una tarde tan amena. Este video es dedicado a ti porque eres pura vida. So what is the Moulin Rouge? After throwing France under the bus for several videos, I thought, well, let's talk a little bit about La Belle Epoque. La Belle Epoque, or the beautiful era, La Bella Era, is more or less taking us out of the Victorian era in the late 1800s to the First World War. And people would look wistfully upon those days because it was a time where you had a lot of scientific discoveries and there was a lot of philosophical discussions and a lot of kind of turning to reason to rule the day. We're going to talk a little bit about the original Moulin Rouge that was established at the base of the Montmartre Hill in Paris, and one of its most famous patrons, or at least its most famous artist, Henri Toulouse Letrec. And then we're going to also, as always, have some great book recommendations. So the Moulin Rouge opens in October of 1889, and its founders wanted a place for those who had means to basically come and mingle with the bohemians and the artists and las mujeres de la vida alegre, so all of the women that also worked on the Rive Gauche or the Left Bank. And it was immediately a sensation. As there were places in New York and other places where people would go to jazz clubs or to go to different types of musical venues. But what the Moulin Rouge had, which was very unique, was that it was a combination of a lot of artists, a lot of obviously well-known members of the theater, and of course well-known women. Well-known courtesans, to be more exact. So you have this immediate success. By 1891, Henri Toulouse Letrec is actually drawing the posters for the show, and it was nicknamed Le Palais de la Femme, the Palace of Women. The famous can-can that had developed out of the quadrille, which had African influence, so we have to always give Mother Africa her due. The can-can was danced there and was very famously promoted there, as well as kind of letting go of that Victorian feeling of life and embracing this new feeling of optimism and that everything could be solved and that the world was moving forward in a very reason-based scientific way. Here are some of the best known paintings of Henri Toulouse Letrec, and he is considered kind of post-impressionist, pre-modern. He had a neighbor by the name of Edgar Degas who is thought to have influenced him. He actually also painted Vincent van Gogh. He was a friend of Vincent van Gogh. So you can see that there's this kind of shift in art from the original Impressionist to this pre-modern, and you can really see how this is going to lead up to greats like Picasso and Gauguin and others. So again, artistically speaking, this is really a pivotal moment in the art world as well. But let's talk a little bit about who was Henri Toulouse Letrec. Well, he was an aristocrat, so he was slumming, so to speak. He was the product, his parents were cousins. They were also the product of cousins. And as happens, before we understood the importance of not marrying close family members, he had a lot of physical issues. He had a type of dwarfism, he had problems with his heart, he broke his legs, and so the rest of his body grew and his legs never did. Because again, we're talking about over 100 years ago when a lot of things weren't really understood. So he suffered pain most of his life. That would lead to, I'm sure, things like experimentation with opium and other things that were used to control pain. But even through the pain, he appreciated the beauty and the art, the theatrical ambiance of Montmartre and the Moulin Rouge. And he is best known for all of the paintings of the women and people who attended the performances there. He died at a very young age, but he is an important figure, not just for the French art world, but also for, I would say, all of Western art because of his influence and his inspiration to painters that would come after him. So when you're hanging around Edgar Degas and Vincent van Gogh, you're kind of, in with the in crowd. He left a lot of work, hundreds and hundreds of paintings and lithographs and caricatures and illustrations, and so he was really prolific in his art. So we are left with a lot of his beautiful work. If you're in Paris, it is a definite tourist attraction, the Moulin Rouge. You can attend either with or without dinner and see the famous can-can and the dances there. Of course, now my favorite part of the video, the book recommendations. So the Belle Epoque book recommendations that I have for you, I have 3 for you today. The first one is The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. And why did I choose this? Because we're talking about the same time frame, more or less, and it gives you also a sense of how the mores are being challenged in very Victorian England. And it's being done through comedy. People are saying, we should be able to live the way we want to live, not in the strictures of past societal values and mores imposed by past generations, right? Let us live our lives. We want to be free. So it's not a new call. The second book that I want to recommend is Belle Amie by Guy de Maupassant. Guy de Maupassant is kind of a classic French author, and I just thought, let's throw in a French author. His stories are fun. He really is focused on how reason and romance interplay and also self-reflection. What are we thinking about in terms of what was considered the modern way of life? Belle Amie is a good story to begin with. He's got lots of works to enjoy. I'm sure you'll enjoy this one. And the third book I thought we would focus on of Toulouse Letrec. So Toulouse Letrec, A Life by Julia Frey is exactly that. It's the life of Toulouse Letrec, and you learn of his childhood in the countryside and how he comes to Paris and all of the medical procedures that they try on him to heal his different ailments, what inspires him, and also a lot of his works, how he progresses as an artist, even through this veil of pain and discomfort. He expresses himself, showing the beauty and showing a different angle to a part of Paris and a part of life that was not really ever portrayed. You would never portray people who weren't of a certain class in paintings really before the Impressionists. So it really wasn't done. You might have a servant in a picture, but you wouldn't really go after and portray theater people, beggars and people on the street and all sorts of things in art until this time. So again, really interesting. It's forcing you to look at reality and to think about the ills of the community or the city in which you live. So that's always important. What are the things that are wrong around us and what can we do to make them better? I leave you with that. And as always, thank you so much for joining me on this voyage, exploring the Moulin Rouge, El Molino Rojo, the red windmill. As I said, in 2019, they celebrated 130 years. And they were interrupted by the world wars, but they continue, and I think it's like 4th, 5th generation owners. Not the same owners, but different owners, and they continue to delight guests. And we were delighted by the musical. So it was fun, and if you get a chance to see it, I recommend it. So again, as always, we wish you mucho cariño mucha salud y mucho amor. Gracias.